So if you're building with AI, I can almost guarantee this question has crossed your mind. You started with LangChain, right? We all did. But now there's this other thing, LangGraph. It's from the same team, but it seems different. So which one are you supposed to use? Well, in this explainer, we're going to clear all that up so you can pick the absolute right tool for your next big idea.
And this really is the core question, isn't it? Because, let's be honest, picking the wrong framework from the get-go doesn't just mean a bit of a headache. No, it can turn your project into a tangled mess that's a nightmare to debug and build on. So, getting this right at the start is absolutely crucial.
All right, let's start our journey where pretty much every AI developer begins. We're talking about the basics, about simple chains, and the framework that honestly opened the door for so many of us to start building with large language models. Good old LangChain.
LangChain is just fantastic for what it does. It lets us snap together different components, a prompt, a model, maybe an output parser, into this nice, neat sequential line. It's kind of like an assembly line, right? Step 1 happens, then it passes its result to step 2, then step 3, and so on.
And you know what? For a ton of applications, that simple straight line is all you need. It's clean, it's easy to wrap your head around, and it's super fast for getting a prototype up and running. But what happens when your idea is a little more complicated than a straight line? And this is the moment we all face sooner or later. Your app needs to be smarter. It needs to make decisions. And suddenly that beautiful, simple chain starts to feel less like a tool and more like a straitjacket. This is where we hit the wall. That point where you realize a linear path just isn't going to cut it anymore.
And here's exactly why you hit that wall. What if your AI needs to try something, check the result, and if it's not good enough, go back and try again? Well, that's a loop. And trying to build a clean loop in a standard LangChain setup is tough. There's no easy way to have it remember what it's done, which is state management. And making decisions, if this, then that, it gets really messy really fast.
So this is the big question. When the logic for your app starts looking less like a straight road and more like a city map with intersections, roundabouts, and dead ends, basically a flowchart, you've officially outgrown the basic chain model. And this is the exact problem the LangChain team decided they needed to solve. And their solution is pretty brilliant. Instead of trying to bend and break a chain to do things it was never meant to, they came up with a whole new way of thinking about the problem.
And that brings us to LangGraph. The keyword to focus on here is graph. Forget the straight assembly line. I want you to picture a network, a web of nodes connected by edges. This structure is specifically designed for these complex, looping, stateful workflows where your app can bounce between different steps based on the logic you define.
Now, what's so cool about this is how it's a direct answer to the problems we just mentioned. You need decision points and branches? LangGraph is literally built for that. You need to loop and try again? That's a core feature. And the big one, it has state management baked right in, so your AI agent can actually remember the journey it's been on.
Okay, that's enough theory. Let's make this real. When should you actually use LangChain, and when is it time to bring in LangGraph? Let's walk through a few real-world scenarios.
First up, a basic RAG chatbot. You know the drill. A user asks a question, you find some relevant documents, you feed it all to the LLM to get an answer. That's a classic step 1, step 2, step 3 process. LangChain is the hands-down winner here. It's a no-brainer. Using LangGraph for this would be like using a bazooka to open a door. Total overkill. Okay, but now let's imagine an AI research agent. Its job is to search for information, look at the results, and, here's the key part, decide if those results are actually good enough. If they're not, it needs to change its search query and go again. That go again part, that's a loop. And that is a perfect job for LangGraph. Trying to make this work in LangChain would be an absolute headache.
Now for the final boss, a multi-agent system. We're talking about multiple AI agents all working together on a problem. You need a supervisor agent to hand out tasks, check their work, and decide what to do next. This is the absolute sweet spot for LangGraph. It was practically born to handle this kind of complex coordination. And this chart just says it all. For a really complex task, yeah, you could probably force LangChain to do it, but you'd end up with 100 lines of messy, hacky code that's impossible to maintain. Or you could use LangGraph and do the same thing, but better in half the code. And it would be clean, logical, and easy to understand. The choice is pretty clear. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? Is it time to just throw LangChain in the bin and go all in on LangGraph? Well, let's just look at the breakdown. LangChain is for simple, linear stuff. It's great for beginners,
but you gotta handle state yourself. LangGraph is built for complexity. Yeah, the learning curve is a bit steeper, but it gives you all that power. State management, easy loops, right out of the box. They're clearly built for different jobs.
And this is the single most important thing to get. This isn't a competition. The same team that built LangChain saw its limitations and then built LangGraph to solve those specific problems. They're designed to be complementary, to fit together.
So the real verdict is, we've been asking the wrong question all along. It was never LangChain versus LangGraph. The real power, the secret sauce, is realizing it's LangChain and LangGraph.
So here's your playbook. Step 1, always start with LangChain. It's fast, it's easy, just get your idea working. Step 2, the moment you feel like you're fighting the framework, when you're trying to force in loops and complex logic, that's your signal. It's time to bring in LangGraph. And step 3, the real pro move is using them together. Use LangChain for the simple parts of your app and LangGraph for the complex, cyclical parts.
At the end of the day, these are both incredible tools in your toolbox. And the mark of a great builder is knowing which tool to use for which part of the job. So, as you start dreaming up your next project, don't ask which one you should use. Ask yourself, how can I combine them to build something truly amazing?